Hi, host Eric here. I'm talking with famous people. I'm also here with famous person debater Adeline, and we're talking debate stuff. And I thought I'd go and kill two birds with one stone, as I like to, and make a video about the origins of contemporary wrongness. So, the origins of contemporary wrongness. We're on these issues here of inherency and fiat. Inherency is a principle that says we shouldn't do anything if there's not a problem. If we're a legislative body and there's no problem to address, then we shouldn't do anything. And it also says we shouldn't do something that's going to fix itself. It also says we shouldn't do something if doing something makes it worse. So basically it says our default position should be do nothing. And it follows naturally from the burdens issue we talked about earlier, that those who make the claim are the people who have the obligation to meet a burden to uphold that claim, substantiate it, and to have that claim face scrutiny and face counter-arguments. So one argument that can be made against any claim is there's no inherency. Hey guys, let's pass a law that prevents Sharia law from taking place in Kansas. They passed that law in Kansas. Well, what's the problem with that? It has no inherency. There's no risk at all. There's no existing, not only is there no existing instances of Sharia law causing problems in Kansas, there's almost no possibility that it's going to happen anytime soon. Any predictions that it would are themselves subject to separate scrutiny as claims. But the thing is, people think it's harmless enough. They say, oh, well, it's harmless. We just passed a law that didn't do anything. That's fine. But it's not fine because it violates the core principle, one of the core principles that helps legitimize any legislative body. That legislative body must default to the position that it needs to establish inherency before it does anything. That it can't pass a law that doesn't need to be passed. It can't pass a law that's not responsive to a problem at all. It can't pass a law that is not addressing a barrier in the status quo that needs to be overcome. So, for example, if I were to pass a law saying, from now on, everybody needs to say thank you to the person who works at the gas station after they've done pumping their gas. They need to not just drive away, they need to walk inside and say thank you to the counter person. Adeline, will you please pay attention? You're not paying one goddamn bit of attention. You're fucking around with something. What are you playing with? What are you playing with?
You can also on my computer. Remember, I didn't bring any paper with me today.
That's fine. Are you really taking notes though?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how about you at home? Viewers, I see you. You're totally on your computer right now. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be taking notes. Okay, anyway, yeah, it's a default position. It's not a huge big deal. Obviously, when we do pass a law, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do much, so it's not a huge big deal. And we're going to talk, and I had this on the list here, we're going to tie this all into a big issue about ends versus means and how we need to have both. And this particularly specious argument that I encounter in the world. So the next issue is fiat. Fiat says if we are arguing about whether we ought to do something, then we shouldn't have to, we do need to establish that it's possible, that it's not impossible, but we shouldn't have to establish that it's likely to be done in order to resolve the issue of whether it ought to be done. So, for example, if I'm saying the United States ought to behave as follows in foreign policy, and somebody argues that'll never happen, the Democrats won't vote for that. That is Well, that's not quite the elections DA. Yeah, that's not quite the elections DA. Let's not confuse the viewing public. The elections DA basically says, if we do what you say, it's gonna make Trump win. Yeah, it's gonna make Trump win, and then they have various links to terminal impacts. It's like, well, yeah, I'm not questioning your fiat. We can pretend like you do it and see what happens. That's what fiat means. Well, let's pretend like we do it. Is it what happens? That's one way of interpreting fiat. Another way of interpreting fiat is I'm just here to argue whether we ought to do it, not whether we are doing it currently or whether there's a lot of political will to get it accomplished. If in fact, though, this is the thing, and this is why we have fiat and why it's important. If in fact what I am saying ought to be done, that I win that argument, yes, we all agree now, or you all have no other arguments to present, that we ought to do what I suggest we ought to do. Now that I've established that, if you are going to come and say, well, we're still not going to do it, now the situation is dramatically changed because now you are affirming that we must not do it and the burden's on you. I've already won the debate about it, right? If you're out of arguments and you say, well, it's still not going to happen, then the burden is on you to justify somehow your failure to take action to make it happen. And or your failure to prefer the good over the bad. Okay, so fiat is important. We do need to be able to know what we ought to do in order to get ourselves to be more likely to do what we ought to do. We can't improve towards doing what we ought to do unless we know what that is. So the next issue is solvency. Now, solvency drives home the point that all plans of any sort in life, all plans equal problems. All plans equal problems. Now, we think of a problem as a negative word. Some people say, well, there's some things that are problems, some things that are opportunities. They're all problems, okay? It's not supposed to be a negative word. It's a problem like a problem in well, it's a problem that is naturally occurring because of time. In other words, this thing that's in front of me that we're talking about, that I have to come up with a plan for, I can't just do the thing. So let's say my problem were I'm tired of holding this pen in my hand. Well, I wouldn't come up with a plan. I wouldn't say, I got a problem. I am so tired of holding this pen. Now let's see, what could I do? Well, first I'm going to consult some experts to hand-holding pens and the conjoining of the two things. And then I'm going to call the expo marker company and ask them what happens if you hold the expo marker for too long. No, I'm just going to go, I just put it down. There we go. Now I'm not holding the pen anymore. It's a miracle. I didn't have to come up with a plan. I just set it down. Why? Because it's an event-based problem. It's a problem that is an ongoing status in the ongoing process of consciousness right now is that of holding this pen. And a single event or a single action can resolve the status to be not holding this pen. So it's one step. It doesn't take any planning. However, most things in life don't work like that. We can see some shadowy desired outcome over here, maybe like something specific to us, maybe like me richer. And then we maybe have a time frame of we go like 10 years from now. And then here I am now. I go, me now. So if I want to, how much I want to achieve this thing, says, here's me richer, here's me now. How do I want to get up there? Look, There's a mountain range that popped up right there. That's a problem. How am I going to get there? Well, a plan is something that enables us to get to a perceived potential future that is not yet manifest and has a probability of success. Are plans ever certain? No. Why not? Because they require passage of time, and as time passes, things change. Right. Addie understands. She's an NE dumb, so she knows.
A what?
An extroverted intuitor. It means you like possibilities.
Yes.
And so you don't like to say, well, I know what we should do. We should do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, A, K, L, M. And then we'll get to where we're going. Because you'll say, hold on. But at B, there could be a mudslide of some sort that prevents us from going to C. We may need to go around. We may need to go back around the other direction or something. Who knows? The future might bring whatever it might bring. Why do you insist on planning all this shit? Do those things sound like things you resonate with, Addie?
I kind of start at the beginning, like, I'm going to do this, and then I go, no, I'm not going to do this. There's no way my plan's actually going to follow through because A, I'm way too lazy, and B, I'm way too lazy.
Okay, well, look, we're going to talk about that after this. Let me talk about this for a little bit more, and then I'm going to have you come sit up here and unless I want to ask you about your experience of extroverted intuition, your experience of procrastination, things like that, things that are common for NTPs. But you're NFP, also NFPs, NFP or NTP.
Oh, yeah, when are we ending class? Because I have to call my dad and my phone's broken, so I have to borrow someone.
You can borrow my phone.
Yeah.
You can use it to call your dad.
I broke my phone.
Well, why did you break it?
Because it wasn't working. And no, I didn't like smash it or something. I wiped the memory from my phone and I wiped the memory from my dad's phone and I tried to switch the SIM cards, but one of them was way too big and the other one was way too small. So I kind of just gave up. And then
okay, stop, Addie.
Shh,
hold the stories. Okay, I know you'll have plenty more, I'm sure, but hold them for when we do talk about things, which we'll do in like 10 minutes or something. Okay. So this plans issue. We say, well, look, here's my plan. We're going to go around this thing. We're going to go over there. That's what we're going to do. That's my plan.
No.
Well, that's going to take a passage of time. And when we're here, it may be that this C has fallen loose. And it's landed right here. And we can't go that way then. Now we have to do a slight detour to go this way. But then we notice down here, there's me even richer. Wait, shit, do I still want to go this way? Well, we already traveled so much. Fuck it, let's go. We go down here. Okay. Now there's a possibility this is gonna happen. Oh shit! Me richest. Now already like 15 years into this thing, right? You're almost here, and you go, okay. I started this trip 15 years ago. I was gonna be me richer in 10, but I got sidetracked here. We came over here instead. This was fun. This was neat though. I liked it. I like the versus part over there. We looked at that for a while. And then we came down here. Oh yeah, hell yeah. Almost there, 15 years. Oh my God, what's that thing over there? Oh, fuck it. Let's go, come on. Wait, hold on, Andy, I'm almost done. Stop. Hey, watch out. Oh no. Ah, cliff. Dead. Poor and dead.
Strauss.
What?
Did you realize, can I run this?
Yeah.
That at here, instead of going all the way back and dying at this cliff, you could have gone to me even richer, then cut across, completely avoided the cliff and got to me richest.
Well, listen, Addie, I was gonna do it, but you wisely pointed out, you were hanging out with me the other day, you wisely pointed out that if I don't run over there right now, I might miss it.
I didn't say that.
No, you wisely pointed that out. You don't remember?
No, I didn't.
Addie, it was just yesterday.
If it was just yesterday, we would be dead right now. And I'm not dead, so thus, I didn't say that. Thank you.
Good job. Okay. Plans, right? So when people make plans, We don't want to just have, comes back to inherency again. We don't want to start just doing plans for no reason. Better be a good reason. Solvency. If we think about me being richer as a problem rather than an opportunity, which we should think of it as a problem, right? Because the problem is I'm not rich enough, apparently. Otherwise, why am I going to go get richer? Remember, to choose one path is to not choose another path, right? So if I say, oh, I know how I'm going to get rich, I'm going to invest in real estate.
Yeah, you actually have to like go through tests to do real estate, and they give you a book about game, and you have to spend money to buy the book, take classes. You literally have to take classes, and then you might be able to pass. And then sometimes they
That's
go,
to
oh, you
sell
came too
real
late.
estate.
You have to retake this class and get to rebuy this book again. You have all time more money, and then you end up selling your real estate.
That's for being a real estate agent. That's for buying and selling real estate like that, like as an agent. Okay. What I'm saying is investing in real estate, where you purchase a house to make it a rental property. For example.
Oh, okay. Then you don't have to do tests.
Yeah, that's just financial investment. It's not a sort of anything like that. Okay, here we go. So, look, solvency. If you are making a plan, there has to be a problem. If there is a problem, your plan has to solve it. If your plan doesn't solve the problem, we shouldn't do it. And if there's no problem to be solved, we shouldn't plan. So therefore, you have to have inherency and solvency. Otherwise, you're just a lame guy.
I'm not a guy.
Well, you get the point. Fiat. Fiat. Remember, what you don't have to have is a quote unquote realistic chance of having it accomplished. And the reason to remind you why that's the case is because if in fact you win the argument and we ought to do it, then why the hell isn't it realistic for us to do it? If all the things have been argued out all the way, and the winning arguments are standing and the losing arguments are down, why is it not realistic? Who's being obstructionist? For what purpose? And are they in fact placing self-interest above the interest of the legislative body, of fulfilling the legislative body's duty to function as a custodial helper to the average citizen? Solvency, inherency, fiat, reciprocity underlies it all. It underlies every bit of it. So, there are some principles of American democracy, American jurisprudence as they call it, which is sort of law stuff. One of them is called rule of law.
I think we moved past ancient Greece now, Strauss.
What?
I think we moved past ancient Greece now.
Yeah, we're way past ancient Greece. I don't know what time it is. I think it's 1939. Rule of law. It's like I don't know. It's not time period specific anymore. Okay, we're not on a linear timeline anymore. Out of line. Rule of law. This means, what does this preclude? It precludes cronyism, presumably it limits legislators' ambitions. I'll explain why in a second. And presumably it additionally it guarantees deliberative justice. Okay, so this word deliberative is crucial. It's what we lack in current political discourse, is an understanding that this is the basic requirement to be a statesman of any sort. If you cannot engage in a deliberative process, you have no business being a legislator. What is a deliberative process? It is the process of making and responding to arguments and eliminating certain arguments as valid or as invalid, right? It's not enough to just say, here's my argument, here's your argument. This is why congressional debate is so stupid. I mean, like, as an event, it's stupid. I mean, I like it when we win it, but it's dumb. It's like it's
Abraham's
idea
gonna watch
theater.
this
It's
and
idea theater. Okay, it's not really you're not engaging in real idea warfare. It's idea warfare theater.
Abraham's gonna watch this and then he's going.
Well, I am sorry. I am not talking about Abraham or any other human being. I'm saying that event and that style of debating is fucking stupid. It doesn't do it. Why is it so stupid? Because it does not engage this deliberative process. The deliberative process is one where it is not enough to make the arguments, not enough to respond to the arguments, not enough to have your own arguments responded to. There needs to be an agreement amongst all parties of the status of those arguments after certain points of the fray. So, okay, we've argued this out for a certain amount of time. Now, which arguments are still standing? You have to be able and willing. Can you imagine if we had a sports league where the team, when they were losing, just refused to admit it? They just said, we won that game. What the fuck are you talking about? We totally won. Like, everybody here looks at the score. Look at the score. That doesn't matter. That's subjective. That's arbitrary. Those numbers up on that lighted board there that say me 100, you 120, that doesn't mean you won. That's just one person's interpretation of it. That's just the scorekeeper's interpretation. He's just one guy. It doesn't matter. Some people think, I totally should have made that one shot. It was unfair because the rim, I think it was a little bump on the rim and it caused it to kind of bounce out. So I gave myself that 3 points, no problem. And also, one of your guys' players is too tall. So I subtracted 20 points from you. So that's why we won. It's 103 to 100. No, obviously we can't do that. We can't possibly imagine doing that, right? We wouldn't have any sports if that's how sports were adjudicated. Who would want to go to a basketball game where it didn't matter what happened on the floor during the whole course of the game? After the game was over, the way you determined the winner was both sides loudly declared themselves to be the winner, and everyone went home disappointed. That's democracy in a nutshell right now. It doesn't have to be. The number one only thing that matters that it's missing is deliberative processes, the processes of making, responding to arguments, and agreeing upon their status on the flow. Is that still standing or not? Yeah, I know public discourse doesn't work like that exactly, in the sense that most of the time when you're engaging in a political argument with somebody, it doesn't play out on a point-by-point basis like it ought to, because most people don't know what they're doing. But, Adeline, you're going to be a very informed citizen. You're going to understand that when you go to some sort of state of political position or hold a political position, you're going to say to yourself, these morons are criminally incompetent because they are incapable of engaging in dialectical deliberation. And they are criminally incompetent. We need like a medical board. We would never allow surgeons who think that if you've got a broken leg, the best thing to do is to cut it open and shove a frog in there. That's why we have medical boards. Hey, Addie, I don't know what you're complaining about. My surgery style is just as good as yours. Yeah, I know there's a big lump there. That's what the frog is. Well, you broke a bone, so I did what my people have taught me, which is I sliced open your leg, I inserted the dead frog, and I sewed back up your leg. That's why there's a lump there. But don't you worry, honey. It's going to get better. Is that okay? Is that fine? You go take him to court and say, malpractice. I'm suing you for malpractice, doctor. And the doctor goes in court and says, Judge, everyone's opinion is equal here. I mean, she is trying to say that somehow she's right and I'm wrong. We all have our own opinions. My opinion is, first of all, her leg looks a lot better now. I think it looks cool like that. It looks way cooler with that big dead frog in it now. Look, she used to have kind of like a regular old straight leg. Now she's got that neat looking frog shaped thing in her leg. Why should we prefer her opinion that she says I don't like the way it looks, she says. Well, that's just because she has bad fashion taste. Who wouldn't want frog leg? Who wouldn't want frog in leg? Frog lumping leg. Lumpy frog leg. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want a leg that's defined by its frog lumps? In fact, I'm countersuing. You should have paid me more money since I did such a wonderful service for you inserting that dead frog lump into your leg. You now owe me $10,000. Are all those arguments equal? No. Are both types of surgery equal? When the regular surgeon comes in and says, well, actually, the way we normally do it is we don't put dead frogs in people. And that doctor's insane, and he should be held totally liable for this and probably criminally liable as well. And the judge goes, you sure are sanctimonious, bub. Everyone's entitled to their own way of doing things. Who's right? And why, Adeline? Who's right and why? Don't be shy, tell me who's right and why. Tell me who's right and why. Who's wrong, who's right?
The guy who put the frog in the leg is wrong.
Oh, but isn't he correct that everyone's opinions are equal and we should all respect everybody's different ways of doing things?
Yeah, but opinion is factor two very, very, very different.
Are they?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Well,
I mean, if it's a fact for me that putting a dead frog in my leg made me feel extremely fashionable, and it wasn't, I don't think it was just a coincidence, Addie, that I put that dead frog in my leg and 3 months later my broken leg had healed. I don't think there's any coincidence there. That's called solvency, my friend. What's wrong with what I'm saying? Scold me for my wrongness.
Why?
You're failing to scold me for my wrongness.
Yeah, the camera's turning around.
What's wrong with that shit, Addie? Come on.
What?
Look,
Really
think about it.
Let's see. How about the fact that it's not how people typically do things? It's probably not the way you're taught. And most people wouldn't want a frog in their leg. Just because one person wants a frog in their leg doesn't mean everybody wants a frog in their leg. And the job of the doctor is to give the patient satisfactory service. Satisfactory is determined on how the patient feels afterwards.
Bingo! That last thing you said, you finally extroverted intuition your way to it. Right? You're just like, I just keep saying things until I land on the right one. Good. That's the right one. Okay? It's you that's complaining because it's your leg. Yes, it's his doctoring style. That's true. It's his doctoring style. But the problem is he's not doctoring himself. He's doctoring somebody else. And so that's where the claim has to come under scrutiny, right? Is, okay, well, even if it is just a subjective opinion as to whether or not you like to have a dead frog in your leg, the problem is I'm the one with the dead frog in my leg, and it's my subjective opinion that that's bullshit. And the problem you have, doctor, is you're supposed to perform according to my standards, not yours, as you indicate, right? You're supposed to perform according to my standards, not yours. Why should the doctor perform according to your standards, not his own?
Because it's your leg, not.
Because you're paying him.
And you gotta live with it, and he don't gotta.
You're paying him, that's why. Because you hired him to do the job, and he has to do the job right. If you hire an air conditioning installer to come and install an air conditioner, and instead what they do is they staple a duct to your wall and walk away.
We've hired like 3 air conditioning people. Our AC still isn't fixed yet. It's been a month, people.
How many ducts are stapled to your wall?
None.
Well, there's your problem. You need to hire a real air conditioning person. They're going to come in and staple ducts to your wall. All right. The point is, Adeline, Miss Fussy Pants, Miss Troublemaker, who is trying to argue with me about things that she knows, but she just doesn't want to say it. Right? You want to hide behind your computer, but you don't want to just say the simple words of truth that are filled within your soul. Okay, so let's talk about the last thing I want to say. Oh, yes. So this realistic thing. There's some specious arguments you're going to hear in life. One is called, and basically these two argument styles, they both are the same kind of argument. They both say, you may have won the argument, but I'm going to avoid actually deciding any points by moving the issue down the road somehow. Okay, there's two ways of doing it. There's a lot of ways, but here's two ways you can do that. Number one is I'd have to learn more about it answer. Okay, so somebody comes in, they make a claim. They say something like, the U.S. should do this. The U.S. should import plums from Venezuela. Okay, should import plums from Venezuela.
Why? I don't think Venezuela grows plums.
Well, this year they do. Okay, I come in and make that claim, and I'm arguing, yeah, we should totally import plums. And it just so happens, Adeline, that you are an expert on this field, and you happen to know, because you work in agriculture or something, you're like, actually, that's a really bad idea. Because, number one, Venezuelan plums are just now coming back from the plum blight of 2004, and most of them still have some of the genetic markers of that plum blight. And recent research suggests that actually the genes in that plum blight can interact with human genes and cause really awful mutations. So we definitely don't want to import any Venezuelan plums. And then the guy goes, well, it's important that we import Venezuelan plums. Now, my friend here has brought up some concerning stuff, and I'd have to consult with the experts who know why that's not a problem to find out for myself why that's not a problem that they brought up right there. I'm not the expert myself. There are experts out there, I'm sure, who can give us an answer to why your reasons don't matter. But the important thing is my claim's still standing. See that? See that they do that, right?
That's bullshit.
Of course it's bullshit. Of course it is. They don't say all the words to make it obvious that's what they're doing. They try to hide the fact and say, well, I am no expert in this. And there are a lot of people who know a lot more about it than me. But, it's a tricky issue. Wait, hold on a second. The only reason you're backpedaling now is so they got you fucking cornered. Right? That's when they backpedal. I'm going to dance around. Well, nobody's an expert. Somebody else out there knows why I'm right, though. Yeah, nobody does because you're fucking wrong. You need to be able to nail people to the wall when they start doing that shit. Now, appeal to some other expert who knows why you're right it's an offensive argument. If I ever hear anybody do it to me again, I've got all sorts of nuclear bombs to drop on them when they do it. The second one is somewhat less offensive, but very annoying. It's well, Eric, you're just not being realistic. That's not the way the world works. That's not the way the world works, Eric.
Fiat.
I'm saying how it should work. And I just won all the arguments. You should be at this point agreeing with me. Yes, that is how it should work. To the extent you want to talk about it not being realistic at this point, since you've lost all the arguments,
Just because
you should be saying, well, for Christ's sakes, Eric, how can we make it happen? Not, well, that's not realistic. You just lost all your arguments. If that's why it's not realistic, then we need to go explain to those people that those reasons that they don't want to do it are really stupid, just like the ones you were just saying. Remember how we just had this discussion? And I just proved how those reasons are all fucking stupid? And you say, yeah, well, it's not realistic to expect people to go along with your idea, Eric. Well, why isn't it? Well, because they're expressing and possessing positions that are just like the ones I just destroyed of yours. So let's go help them learn too. Let's make it realistic. It's already realistic. The problem is some people don't understand reality, as is clear. If they're making bad arguments that just lost, then they're not realistic. They're not realistic about what their words mean. They're not realistic about what their arguments do. There's no reason to think that their assessment of mechanisms as predictors of impacts of policy decisions is going to be any more accurate than those of a hedgehog. So, now look, Adeline, the last message of this video is you can I don't remember the exact metaphor. I'm going to mix metaphors here. You can cook more omelets with honey than you
Catch
can.
more flies with honey than vinegar.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That thing. Catch more flies with honey and vinegar. They say that, right?
Yes.
Maybe you will catch more flies with honey than vinegar. But what I'm saying is, it's not enough to say, oh, good, I caught some flies. When what we really need to do is eradicate the problem entirely. So, means I want a force field around my whole house that prevents any flies from getting in, ever. That way I never have to worry about them again. Okay? So, sometimes if we put out the honey, we catch more flies, but we also attract more flies. Yeah? So, if you have a pest problem, and your pest problem is flies, you don't want to put out something that they like. You don't want to put out something that they don't like. You want to abruptly and with no warning annihilate them all in humiliating, disgusting ways so that their brethren know not to fuck with you again. This is what I want you to think when you encounter bad arguments in the world, Addie. When you come down hard on them, you do everybody a service. You make those arguments less likely. When you come down hard on a bad argument, like a fallacious argument that people are using to try to justify their bad ideas, when you come down hard as hell on that shit, and you go, like I did on Facebook, this guy's a lawyer. Okay, his name is Jeff Stewart. And he made the genetic fallacy in a Facebook thread of mine. And he was basically saying, Eric, you can't advocate that. You know, in 1941, the Nazi regime advocated this law that's very similar to what you're saying right there. And then I did my normal response to that. I got kind of a standard response, which is, well, I sure as hell hope you're not eating breakfast then. I think I saw you eating breakfast the other day. Nazis did that all over Germany for years. I mean, because who the fuck cares if it was a Nazi law or not? The point isn't if it was a Nazi law. The Nazis had a law that said you can't murder Germans by their definition of Germans. Are you saying we should have had, therefore we should allow murder? Of course not. So, when he did that, I put smackdown on him in the comments. He deleted his comment after I put smackdown on him. And I haven't heard him make that mistake again. Even more important than that, though, if he's in a battle with a third party and I never know about it, never find out about it, never hear about it, never think about it, and the other person used that same bad argument he used, he will, guarantee you, cop and use the argument I used to destroy him. And that's why you're doing humanity a favor when you release into the wild the weapons of contemptuous indignation and dismissive piao.